Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. It is Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We are live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Really fun hour lined up. VSiN host Mike Buchmiller with a bunch of his best bets and player props that he likes in the NFL for this weekend. Here, a fun conversation about Survivor and also Circa Survivor in general, as James Sullivan and Mike Buchmiller are in studio, and they created, Survivor Sweat, and also James is a winner of Circa Survivor only a couple of years ago. Mike is. Sorry about that. Yeah, a couple of years ago. Guys, good to see you. Thanks for coming in today. How are you?
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Awesome to be here. Let's
start with this. Explain to the audience exactly what Survivor Sweat is and how you came up with the idea.
Well, and it's basically an eBay for sports contest entries. So we've been in the gaming space for 20 years. Our background actually is in poker. You see these deals in poker tournaments all the time, where you're either making a final table deal or you're swapping different percentages yourself. So, when we, given our background and then, seeing this contest just grow year over year, the hard thing about Survivor, it's elimination. When you're out, and no one likes that feeling to be out. So the marketplace gives you a chance to buy, sell, or swap, percentages of your entry. So for a seller, it allows them the ability to liquidate a portion of their entry, to monetize their entry. And for buyers, it gives them an opportunity to get back into the contest.
And has it been busy this year?
It's been crazy. We launched it last year. We tested it last year, and the response was obviously was crazy. People were, on both sides looking to buy, looking to sell. This year, it's been even bigger. Yeah, it's been a crazy year.
So if we go back to last year when the poker player, Mike Perry, Sean Perry, God, my names are all mixed up here. Sean Perry, he refused to chop. And they got down to 13 people before he was, at that point, did the other 12 people, were they like, come on, let's go. I need somebody to buy some of this ticket.
So we actually were the ones that were putting that deal together. So there was down to final 12. I was the one that was actually talking to all those entries. 10 of the 12 had agreed, and then Sean Perry came along, and we knew Sean from our days in poker. So we knew it was gonna be a tough sell. The one thing about these entries when you get that far down is everyone thinks their baby's the cutest. So it's very hard.
Very well said.
It's very hard to get everyone to agree that their entries are roughly the same, and to get everyone to agree. But at that stage, we had 10 of the 12 entries who had agreed to chop it at that point.
So looking at this, is there a number that's too big, or do you still have enough confidence in yourself that you can get this done? Is 15 too big? Can you get a deal done and work this out if we get down to 14 and there's so much money on the line? I don't trust who I have left. I don't trust anybody, period. Let's make a deal.
I think this year it could happen around that number, just because given the size of the prize pool of $14 million.
Yeah, okay.
So I think it could happen, but it's very hard to get 14 people, 12 people, 10 people to agree to anything. So that's the hard part.
Okay.
Usually when you get into single digits is where you see obviously much more activity when you're talking about chopping the prize pool.
Let's bring Mike into discussion now, because you won it in 2022.
That's correct.
It was you and one other entry.
That's correct.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have an entry left this year?
Do.
Okay. What do you think about that? Like, what's a fair number in your head? What have you been thinking about here down the stretch?
Well, I'm a deal maker. Like, at the end of the day, this is the NFL. It's a week-to-week league. I mean, when you talked about who are you confident in, I mean, come on. I mean, sometimes we're just out there flipping coins on these teams. Yeah. This is crazy. The money is real, but the money's different. It's subjective to everybody's own personal finances. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want to make it this far and walk away with sand. I'd be willing to chop and play for something. I just don't know what the exact number is. So it just depends. If we're approached and a deal's on the table, we'll definitely, think about it.
Okay. How difficult is it that there is someone remaining with 6 entries of the 105 or 104?
Yeah, they are definitely in the driver's seat for sure. Of those 6 entries, 3 of them have twins. So unless they start splitting them, they're only going to have a certain path. So they can find the finish line, but they can also get chopped really quick.
When you negotiate, a question for both of you guys, but the toughest thing with if you sell and someone wants to buy back in or you want to sell a piece, what's the conversation like about then how much input do they have if I'm buying? And how do you say, no, I still get full control even though you bought in, or is it I want say now because I have a piece?
So the seller obviously dictates that. They can obviously sell a majority stake. They can give up the pick control, and they include that in their listing. Or if they're selling a minority stake, then the buyer has no say. There are times where they ask us to connect the two parties, and we will if they request that. But typically, the person who owns that entry, they control that entry. They're the ones making the picks, and they don't have to take any input from anyone. You're a silent investor.
Okay, so let's talk this through right now. And this, I think, is a good lesson maybe for down the road, right? For next year, for people who get into it in years beyond. So every ticket right now is worth about $134,000, a little bit more than that, right? So what's the starting price to get in for somebody who's going to want I don't even know, we can go 10% of the whole ticket overall. What are we talking about here? What's if somebody reached out to you right now, they want 10% of the ultimate winnings of year entry. What are we doing here?
Well, I'd have to take a look at it and see what the the current market value is. Obviously, me controlling the pick, I feel very confident.
You'd still want that no matter what.
I'm not giving it up.
You're not going to give it up.
No, I found the finish line. I feel like I could find it again.
So even if somebody said, I want full control, how much money would it take? You're not interested.
Well, there's always a dollar. But at right now, I don't think it's feasible for somebody who would pay over that market value.
And right now, most of the sellers are selling smaller stakes where they want to keep pick control. There's only one entry in the marketplace right now that is willing to give up the pick control. So as you see it get later in the contest here, people have made it this far. They know what they're doing. For the most part, they want to keep the pick control. The one thing I will tell you is what we see early on in the contest is these entries sell for a premium. They're selling for above EV. As the contest goes on and as it gets later, there's a swing in the pendulum. And right now, we just saw it actually last week where they're now starting to sell under EV. So you're roughly seeing about 1,000 a point is where they're selling right now.
Okay, very good. Because I go back to this, and I know someone who sold 100% after all hell broke loose. I think it was week 3, and the Bengals lost on Monday night. And then someone sold the next day on your site for $30,000.
Full control.
I couldn't believe it. I go, why'd you do that? He goes, I don't trust anybody, anything. I have everything I thought is blown up in my face. I want out. I'm taking the payday. So did you really see business pick up and things go crazy after that week where everyone lost?
Yeah, I mean, carnage is good for business. I can say that. I mean, that was the craziest week that we had. We were doing deals basically nonstop that week because as people were eliminated, like I say, people want to get back in, and so they were, the demand was so high that week. People were trying to get back into the contest, and there were sellers. There was, sellers willing to give up the pick control at that stage.
Okay, when did it pick up last year? Because we still had 350 around 300 something to Thanksgiving before the Lions lost.
Yeah, it was near Thanksgiving where obviously the biggest deal we did last year was 6 figures, and I'll tell you a quick story. There was a factory worker in New Mexico who going into that week was going to take Pittsburgh on Thursday Night Football, and he was trying to decide whether to sell his entry. He sold it Thursday morning for 6 figures. Pittsburgh lost that night, and he was an overnight factory worker. The $100,000 to him, he was within hours of it being worth zero.
Wow. Oh man!
Wow, that's incredible. And I used you last year. It was a piece of cake, easy. How long do you think the process for our listeners? Let's say once you agree on price, equity, all that, 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, each party, once the parties agree on a deal, everything is automated on the website. It triggers a contract. Each party has a 24 hours to review the contract. So you have a day to review the contract. Sometimes the deals are done, like you say, within 10 minutes. I mean, if they go through the contract, it's pretty straightforward. But typically they're done within 1 day. The deal's then funded. We escrow the funds and then pay out the seller.
That's also interesting. You said they think the baby's the prettiest, because I didn't know anything about this until last year, early on, and then there was someone around Thanksgiving sold for a good amount of money, and I'm looking at it, and the person was Seahawk Sanders. He was telling me this person just sold. He's a viewer, and I go, his resume sucks. Look, he's used all these teams. He doesn't have outs on, and someone paid that. And then that's what gets going about, I have a better resume. I have more teams. So to Mike's point, too, about you trust yourself, and that's why I could get more money here, or I have a better path with how this could work out, too. And that's another way to look at it as well and get people going, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to sell the whole thing. You could sell, you don't have to sell 99%. That's the most you could sell is up to 99%. But, we see people sell 70, 80%, 60%. So, you can dictate the percentages and the pick control, things like that. So it is a way to, for these guys who aren't in Vegas, who maybe it's difficult for them to hedge their pick. it's an opportunity for them to monetize their entry.
So with your poker background, then do you see, is that like the majority of people who are buying in when the stakes are getting higher? It's the poker background, or are you seeing them from like all walks of life?
We see it from all walks of life, quite honestly, yeah. I mean, there's professional gamblers, there's poker players that they've got, their risk tolerance is significantly higher than other people. So they're willing to take that risk. But to be honest with you, we have buyers all over the country from all walks of life.
You do? Ooh. Yeah. Again, survivorsweat.com is the site.
Yeah, survivorsweat.com, exactly. And then you just go to the marketplace and there's all the listings there.
And Mike, you have how many? You have one entry left?
One chip, one chair. We got one entry left. Yep. Yeah, that's correct.
And you lost. You had another one on the Giants last week, like I did.
Last week we went in. We had 3 entries. We discussed 3 Giants. We discussed 2 Giants, 1 Bear. We discussed 1 Eagle, 1 Giant, 1 Bear. That's where we ended up landing. We diversified the pick, maximize our chance to survive. At the end of the, and it also limits our chance to get them all 3 through, which we'd like.
Sure.
But, we wake up, or with Saturday night, you guys reveal it's 30s on the Giants.
What do you think of that number?
Wasn't happy about it, to be honest.
I would not have done it if I knew that 30 people would have
absolutely.
Done it. Yep.
But, at the end of the day, we got the Eagles through, and here we are.
Can you guys stick around? Can we go through like the conversations that you have with like partners and how long the stress level here, right? Too, at the end of the week, every single week is like, my heart rate is 560 and my blood pressure is 270,000 over 100. I mean, it's just nuts. And that's all I would think about every single week with Survivor. So we're going to continue here on Follow the Money. Mike Buchmiller, who has won the event before, has an entry left, and James Sullivan, who created Survivor Sweat. How many entries maybe next year in Circa Survivor? We'll ask him coming up.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Fun conversation here with James Sullivan and Mike Buchmiller, SurvivorSweat.com. Mike won this event 2 years ago. Yeah. So I could show you my text thread with my partner from the previous weeks, and it would go on and on and on. I mean, that's all, again, I'm not joking around. Saturdays specifically, right? It's from the time I would wake up until when I'm ready to submit the pick, right? But you have to do that. You have to consider almost everything every week, do you not?
Correct, 100%. No stone left unturned.
Right, exactly. And you have to talk about the path then. What does this do if we take this team or compared to that team? Who does that leave us down the stretch? Take us through 2022 when you guys were having the conversation about, what was it, the Lions-Panthers game, and you went somewhere else?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we're heading into Christmas weekend. And all along we were going to land on the Detroit Lions at the Carolina Panthers. As the week progressed, looking at all analytics, we just came to a realization. I came to a realization that we could not take Detroit. Absolutely could not take Detroit. I get on the phone with my partner and I'm like, hey, we can't take the Lions here. He goes, who are we going to take? And I go, it doesn't matter at this point. We just cannot take the Lions. The matchup is horrible. It's bad. We cannot be there. And so that led to another discussion and another discussion, hours on end, if you will. And then finally we landed on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, I did not like the game. I did not like Pittsburgh at home versus the Raiders. But it was our only chance to survive, because if we were going to be on the Lions, we were not going to make it to the next week.
And they got blasted. The Lions did.
Absolutely blasted. Unreal.
And then the way the Steelers-Raiders game finished was Hall of Fame worthy.
Oh, unreal. Fourth quarter. There's a controversial fourth down that the Steelers pick up. It's like 1 minute and 21 seconds left. Pickett hits Pickens on a skinny post. Score, go absolutely apeshit. And then, Carr and the Raiders have a chance to, drive back. There's time left. Carr throws the pick. The rest is history. We advance, and we got to turn around the very next morning and make a pick on Christmas Day.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, every other team was going to lose, and had the Steelers gone down, a bunch of people were on them.
Correct.
One person was on the Raiders. That person would have scooped the entire thing.
Yeah, no. There was 3 of us on Pittsburgh. One guy, the gentleman, it was Mad Dog, I think it was his name. I think that was his screen name. He was 1 minute and 21 seconds away from winning, scooping the whole thing.
Yeah, it was like 3rd and 7.
Yeah.
If the Raiders get the first down, they take a knee, it's over. He had Adams. I think he had Adams and he missed him.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had it was bumped up to 14,200 people plus this year for $14.2 million.
Yep.
next year. I mean, I've been saying from day one, there's no like ceiling here, right? Any number you throw at me, I'm okay with that.
Okay, I push back a little. I'll tell you.
How high do you think it's going to go next year?
I think it's over 20,000. I think it's over 20 million next year for sure. We've seen just even with the marketplace, there's people that are coming in that are buying 10 packs with the sole intent to sell. We had a customer in Canada who flew down here, bought a 10 pack, and sold them in the first 2 weeks and made a profit. And he didn't know the difference between a money line or a spread. True story.
Oh my God!
But he made money.
Yeah, he invested $10,000. He viewed it as an investment. He invested $10,000. He sold them the first 2 weeks, and he made money. Yeah.
Okay, so you would know, but you're not getting a lot of this is too random. No one. The first 3 weeks, I have a bad taste in my mouth. No, you're not getting any of that.
No,
it won't slow down.
No, I don't think it's going to slow down. I mean, I think we see this as like the World Series of Poker back in the day.
Okay.
If you remember, like years ago, it grew.
Moneymaker.
Yeah, moneymaker after moneymaker won.
Yeah,
and it grew so big. And I think this is bigger than the World Series of Poker.
Okay.
Oh my God!
So it's down to 105 right now. Last year at this time, it had several hundred more than it does right now. Let's say it gets to 20,000 next year, or that number turns into 25,000, whatever. And we don't have as many favorites losing right away. And on Thanksgiving, we have 2,500 people left. At some point, do you think Circa, under that scenario, would Circa have to throw another wrinkle in? And that would be like, beginning in week 12, you got to take 2 teams, or you can only go against the same team like twice the entire year. Anything like that?
There's been a lot of questions asked to Derek about
Sure.
how many ways you can play this contest. But at the end of the day, the contest has proven to be the best football contest in the world.
It is.
And so why mess with something, why speculate? Earlier this year, there was discussions, this will be over by week 5. We need a second chance.
Yes.
Survivor.
Yes.
Here we are. We still got 105 left. I don't know. It might make it to the end. I think it makes it to Christmas. Once you make it to Christmas, who knows? I mean...
Oh, it's wild. Christmas is impossible.
Yeah, the best game there is a coin flip. 55%
Sure.
Chiefs.
Yep.
Are they even going to be playing week 17? Are they resting guys? Nobody knows.
Right.
If you had to bet on it right now, going all the way through, what would you guys do on that? Which side would you want to be on with that bet?
I say 60-40 it gets through.
Yeah, I think 1 or 2 get through. It's every year we've seen at least 2 get to the final.
To the end?
Yeah. So I think it'll be 1 or 2 that get through.
I wonder, though, if we get to what if it's down to 8 people on Christmas? Then it's in the middle of the week. It's on a Wednesday. Are we going to have time for people to come up with a chop at that point?
Well, as we mentioned on our pod, be prepared, be ready. You
Yes.
got to have money loaded up here because the banks are closed.
Yep.
So you have to
Great
be prepared to win this contest, and you have to prepare now. So you better gather whatever funds you have. You better have it here, wired here, and have it sitting here and prepared. We did so the year that we won it.
Good for you.
We were ready and prepared to do whatever we had to do.
Excellent.
To make sure that we pulled equity out of this contest.
Yeah, and at a minimum, at this stage, I would at least register an account at Survivor Sweat, because when it gets down to where there is a chop discussion, like I say, last year we handled that when it was down to the final 12. It does happen fast. It does happen quick. There's holidays, there's things like that. This deal could happen in 48 hours. So even having an account, if you don't post your entry, is obviously worthwhile.
Yeah, the year we won it, we went from 16 to 4 almost overnight, and then down to 3. And so you have to be ready.
Yeah. What other advice would you give people? Not so much about how to get through, but also dealing with the emotions and going through and because when I was in this last year, I loved my partner, but he would change his mind every day. It was driving me nuts. So take us through the highs and lows, and as a winner, also advice you'd give to people that are still alive.
Yeah, you just got to, you got to take the emotion out of it. I know it's difficult to do it, but you have to stick with your strategy. You have to have a sound mind. You have to think clear enough that you are willing to push that button, and you have to live with those decisions. And so just have conviction and live with that. Once you push the button, you can't coach the game. It's out of your hand, but you have to do all the work, leave no stone unturned, everything you possibly can to make an educated decision on the team you want. And just try not to be as emotional as possible. I know it's easier said than done. I know you went deep last year. Unfortunately, I know you lost out last week. I mean, it's tough. You lose one of these entries, getting this far, I mean, it is like losing a family member.
Honestly,
you're depressed. We lost out last year, week 9. We were depressed after going 20 weeks. You're like, oh, this is easy. We can get this done again.
Yes.
And then, boom, you're gone. And I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Now we have to wait till September?
I had to do a podcast about the Circa Survivor, and I'm like, I didn't even, what am I going to do?
Let me tell you, doing Monday's show, that was fun for me. My partner texted me last night. He's like, how you doing? Are you over it yet? And he said, I feel like I lost a family member.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you just said.
It takes a while to get over it.
Yeah.
If you do.
Can you promote the site, the marketplace, and the podcast again?
Yeah, the site is survivorsweat.com. Mike and his partner as well host a podcast, which you could find on Apple, Spotify, everywhere.
Right. How tough is it to avoid the most popular team, especially when we get this? Because I'm with you. I couldn't believe that many were on the Giants.
I'll tell you what, the leveling wars this year have been unreal. There are sharps in this pool, and there's just more. I think contests, the entries, the people in this contest, they're getting sharper. There's just more data, more education. They're getting smarter. It's hard to figure it out. They're listening to podcasts. They're listening to you guys here. There's other platforms out there. Our podcast started very organically because when we were making our run, we were out there looking for every platform. We were looking on X, Twitter, trying to find a community, and there was nothing out there. And so we were approached, and I mean, we get on the pod, and we just talk like we normally talk each week, just trying to figure it out. But it's been tough to figure out the leveling wars. And again, the people left in this pool are sharp.
Well said. Mike, quickly here, like 10 seconds. Where do you normally watch games this late into the season?
Oh, man. We're either, if the Raiders are in town, we're at Allegiant. Otherwise, we're over at our friend's house. He hosts, he has like a mini Circa in a theater, and we have all our friends there, and we sweat it all together.
Oh, wow. That's intense.
As a matter of fact, the documentary came there, and they filmed us a day in the life of what we do watching the game.
Amazing. There you go.